I get a little more situated. Ta-da, you can see my you can see my seed shop. You can see more of my seed shop. I just need a couple seconds to get more situated. Hi, everybody. Mary here for Mary's Heirloom Seeds, and I hope you had an awesome week so far. I hope you are looking forward to your weekend. I don't know how your weather is over there, but it is crazy over here. Give me a second while I kind of get situated. For once, YouTube has decided to go the right way. So now you get to see me fumble with my camera a little bit while I get ready. And here I was all set. I was all excited about being all prepared today, and YouTube's just going to throw me for a loop. Hi, everybody. Say hi. Tell me who you are and what you're doing. Hey, Natasha. Hey, Esther's daughter. Thanks for joining me while I have my little mini bloopers today. It's all right. It happens. It's one of those awesome things that I just have to roll with. Hey, Tom. Thanks for joining me as well. All right. Can you see me now? Hi, Inga. Thanks for joining me. Sorry, I'm getting my area situated here while I run around like a crazy person. All right. Can you see me now? I'm a little crooked. Let me fix that. All right, now I'm here. Hi, everybody. I am Mary at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, like I mentioned earlier, and I try to go live here every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. Today it's Saturday, of course, and YouTube's always interesting and fun, but whatever, we're just going to roll with it. So today's topic is super awesome. It is planning before planting. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, why are we doing that? Why don't we just go ahead and throw out the seeds and just roll with it? But the reason behind that is because, hey, Caitlin, thanks for joining me. There's a couple factors that are super important when you're planting your garden. And there's some that aren't very important to you maybe, but there are some that are important to me. So I wanted to discuss all of that because we've got so much awesomeness going on. And there was a couple of different comments like, well, my garden was weird this year. It wasn't the same, or maybe your soil isn't the same, or you struggled with one variety this year that you didn't struggle with last year, but you had a fantastic success with another one that maybe you struggled with last year. So here's my top factors that I think about when I am planning for my next garden. And that is going to be what worked well for me this year and what didn't work well for me this year. Hey, Laughing Gardens, thanks for joining me. What do I want to grow more of in the next season, and what do I want to grow less of in the next season? So those are kind of my top factors that I consider when I'm working on my next garden project. But then there's a couple of other things that you can do. Are you expanding your garden? Are you going to expand in ground, in containers, grow bags, raised beds? So we have to plan ahead for that if we're going to be expanding our gardens. Sometimes we wing it. It's totally fine if you wing it, but it really just depends on how you roll in your garden. And there's a couple other things is if you're going to do raised beds, where are you going to get your soil? So if you, sometimes you can just wing it and go, okay, I'm going to do raised beds and I'm going to buy my soil from this company. But what if they're busy? Or what if there's a delay in getting all that stuff done? Which is why planning is super helpful. There's a couple other things. Are you going to add a medicinal garden? I'm going to add a medicinal garden this year. Now, let me preface that by saying I'm going to add a more intentional medicinal garden. I've got medicinal herbs growing all over the property, but I want to create a specific herb garden area. And then am I going to be giving gifts for my garden? So all of those are factors that I am going to be considering when I'm planning my garden. And I want to share with you a couple of extras. In the description section of this video, you'll find a link to my comprehensive planting guide. You'll also find a link to so much information. I'll be adding more of to my comprehensive planting guide. By the way, good morning, everybody. I just jumped right in because I was so discombobulated with YouTube. Half the time I set it to go vertical and it makes it go horizontal. Today, I set it to go horizontal and here we are. So Petra Travestry said, I'm starting a medicinal herb garden this year. And I have seen, David, I've seen so much of your new stuff on your new property and I'm so excited for you. So there are so many things to be excited for 2025. I personally am a little more organized this year. Yay me. By the way, I am inside today because we've got some crazy storms. We're supposed to have severe thunder showers and rain, and we have already. So I'm in a metal building. If it gets a little loud, I apologize. I'll try to project. Anita, awesome. That's a great thing. Inga, you're also adding more medicinals, so awesome. Now, if your garden struggled due to nutrient deficiencies, this is really important. Rather than just blanket applying nutrients, unless you know for certain what the issues were in your garden, it might be a good idea to do a soil test. So for example, if your tomatoes had blossom end rot, it's possible that you had not enough calcium in your soil, which means you want to add calcium in the form of eggshells or oyster shells. Now you want to do that now or earlier in the season or fall before your garden has a chance to get going, because that calcium needs a chance to break down in the soil. Natasha says, I have a window flower box. I'll be doing flowers and possibly herbs in. That's a perfect spot for it. So if you had nutrient deficiencies specifically, then you want to address those now. And that's an easy one. Blossom end rot is either inconsistent watering or a calcium deficiency. So you can add calcium now for your garden in the future. But if you wait until you have blossom end rot in your garden, say in June or July on your tomatoes, then you've got to do a fast, quick a calcium magnesium that would be a liquid option. And we have that at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. You add it to water, you pour it on your garden, and it won't save your tomatoes that have blossom end rot at the time, but it will hopefully save future tomatoes that you might struggle with. Now, I did a soil test. I wanted to see what my garden might be lacking so that I can make sure. In my gardens, I did not see, in my established gardens, I did not see nutrient deficiencies in my garden, in my produce. In the newer gardens, I saw a couple of issues that I had to address. And specifically, I had to address the compacted soil. So that's another question that I want to add to my list of factors that I'm considering for 2025. And that is, which garden beds need to be amended and which garden beds need to be fixed if they have compacted soil. So I went ahead and sent in a soil test. I did 2 at-home soil tests, and I'm going to do a whole video on this later on, very soon actually, because I have all the test results right now. But just to share briefly with you, I did 2 at-home, like over-the-counter tests, if you want to say that, something you can buy online or at a garden center, and it was almost identical to the soil sample feedback that I sent into Texas A&M. Most of your states have an extension office. You can call your extension office, and granted, I don't take their advice as far as pesticide usage or fertilizer application, but I do like the information they provide for your soil feedback. Super important, because when you send, that's one of the complaints I see, is when you send your soil samples to an extension office, they're going to give you this crazy fertilizer application thing if you're missing nutrients. And I personally don't use synthetic fertilizers in my garden, so I will do a more natural option. Now, the at-home soil test and the soil test results that I got back from Texas A&M were almost identical. Like I said, the pH of my soil was good. The nitrogen was on the lower side, but not super low, which is normal if it's after your garden season. And the potassium was good. It also told me that my phosphorus was high, and so that I don't need to be adding phosphorus this year or next year, most likely, because phosphorus is super important in your gardens, but if you have too much of it, you could have issues with your plants. And that was the same for my compost that I had delivered and for the raised beds that I put in. So now I know that I have specific information, specific nutrients that I need to add or don't need to add for healthy soil. Inga says, if you have a vegetable that you are pulling that uses a lot of specific nutrients and you compost that vegetable, are you then reintroducing those nutrients back into the soil? Possibly. Not guaranteed, but possibly. Compost is generally a more all around good nutrient to add to your garden, but there are certain things, for example, that will give you more. Like if you added greens, you're going to get more of one nutrient compared to the other. Aaron says, how often do you send samples in? I don't send samples in on a regular basis. Some people recommend that you do it every year. Some people recommend that you don't do it, or that you only send it in if you have an issue. I personally just wanted to know for my own benefit what my soil looked like under a microscope, pretty much. If I was experiencing specific issues in my garden, I actually would have also done the more expensive soil test. So you can actually send it in for contamination, things like that. Like I mentioned earlier, I did not have any issues in my garden, whether it was a contamination issue or a lack of nutrient issues, because I have a pretty good baseline on what I normally add to my soil and what I don't add to my soil, so I wasn't that worried about it. But if I had issues, I would send it in every year. If I had a contamination issue, I would definitely send it in every year, and I would work with fixing the soil as I went. So there's a lot to consider. Now, please don't get too overwhelmed with all this information. I will be teaching a class in Longview, a very short workshop in Longview, February. I think it's February 22nd. I'll double check on that one. And it's going to be building healthy soil. So I'm already gathering my information because I have been building healthy soil. And so the last question is, am I going to be giving gifts in my garden from my garden? So these are all different factors. So as I mentioned, we got the soil handled, so I'm already prepared for next year. What I would be amending to my soil is going to be a little bit of nitrogen. I'm not going to go crazy on nitrogen because too much nitrogen will give you fantastic green growth, but then it won't give you as much actual produce like tomatoes, peppers, things like that. So those are things that I want to work out now before I start planting in February and March. Working on now for pollinators. Speaking of January, one of the one of the things that I'm adding to my planting is planning for pollinators. Planning to plant for pollinators. That's a mouthful right there. Every year at Mary's Heirloom Seeds, we celebrate Plant for Pollinators Month, which is January, and it's only a couple days away, so this is the perfect time. I'm going to reveal my free, what I call the free bee seeds for Mary's Heirloom Seeds for January. Now, if you are new to Mary's Heirloom Seeds, you may not know that in January, I talk about pollinators a lot. And it's not because we are planting specifically in January. It's because a lot of us are planning our gardens in January before we actually plant. So the big reveal, in January, I will be sending out, actually, orders placed starting today, which is December 28th. They'll pretty much be sent out right around there, the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So the free bee seed, it's backwards, I know, it's YouTube. The free bee seed for 2025 Plant for Pollinators Month is calendula. I chose calendula because it is fantastic to, Esther's daughter, I highly recommend that you plant more for pollinators. A lot of times we look at crops, our gardens, and we're like, this is a food crop, this is a food crop, this is a food crop, that's what I'm going to plant. And a lot of times we overlook the pollinators. Hey, Missy, thanks for joining me. The reason I chose this one this year is not only is it fantastic to attract pollinators, also deter pests, but it's also medicinal. calendula is fantastic. It can be used for lots of different things. You can make a tea out of it. You can make salves out of it. I love it. It's great. And there are so many beneficial properties of calendula. So definitely one of those that I'm going to be planting more of in my garden. So this is part of my planning for my planting for 2025 is including more medicinal. So of course I chose calendula. One of the things that I added to Mary's Heirloom Seeds this week is my garden journal. I have been working on this for a year. The worksheets in general, because I want to be able to offer something that is easy to use. And Inga helped me out a little bit, so I really appreciate it. It says, Anita says, can you plant near peach trees and blackberries? Absolutely. You can plant calendula near your peach trees and your blackberries. So my garden journal has, starting with the table of contents, and I'm just going to read this off to you so I can show it. And Nancy ordered it already. So if you have already ordered it, or if you're interested in ordering it, these are ready to ship out this weekend. And if you already ordered it and it's not the 25 Plant for Pollinators, I'm going to include the Plant for Pollinators in it because the books haven't shipped yet, but they will this weekend. So I'm just going to read the table of contents so you can see some of the worksheets. I have a seed inventory worksheet, a seed wish list, a garden layout notes page, which I want to show you. This is going to be my note page. It's got little dots that you can't really see. It's a grid. I'm going to use this main note sheet and I'm going to grid all of my gardens. Not necessarily each garden bed, but say for example, this is going to be my fenced in garden bed here. And then over up here is going to be my new garden space. And then over here is going to be what I call my shade garden. And then somewhere in there is a house and a seed shop. But it'll give me a chance to go, okay, this is where this garden is. This is where this one is. And that one's where that one is. And then I can go with the big grid and I can label this, okay, this is my fenced garden. Or this is the large fenced garden versus the small fenced garden. And I can use this to plan out where all my raised beds are, where my new container garden is going to go, where my new herb garden is going to go. So there's a couple of these grid sheets in here that you can use, a bunch of them actually. And then there's a planting schedule. It's January through December. And I included all of the months because if you're in a warmer climate like David in Florida, maybe you're planting in January. Whereas if you're in Michigan, you're not planting until May or June. You've got a transplanting log, you've got a seeding log, so a seed starting log when you started certain seeds. You've got a harvesting log, soil amendment log, and even a watering schedule so that you can really document what worked and what didn't work. And that is the goal for 2025 is to, for me in particular, I keep records, but not in a single space. I usually have them, I've got some on my computer, but mostly I've got them handwritten on grid sheets or in a regular notebook. But this is actually a worksheet that I can use to document everything in one place. And I'm super excited because I've created all these while I was working through my garden this year so that I can be more organized in the future. Now, what I also have in here is one thing people have asked me over and over again is offer a printed chart for seed planting. So I have plant spacing charts printed and ready to go. That's just for in-ground. And then I've got 2 more sheets for square foot gardening. And that is a printed version so that you've got it. There's a back sheet to it, but I forgot to put it on before I came live. So my garden journal is going to be very important to me this year. It's going to allow me to keep everything in one place. Hey, Alicia, thanks for joining me. There's also a pocket full sheet in there where if I have worksheets that I gather from different events. So for example, I did an event in Kaufman. I was at the Kaufman County Master Gardeners Group. I believe it was for their fall gardening expo. And so I got this sheet and it was a North Central Texas planting guide, seed planting guide. Hey, Natasha. Hey, Kathleen. And so it was a full sheet. So if I don't want to, hey, everybody, Arlene and Shirley are joining us. So if I don't want to hole punch that and I don't want to lose it, I can slide it in that pocket folder, and I'm good. It's all in one place. So 2025 is going to be a lot more planning before I plant, and hopefully help me keep organized. The other day I was looking at one of my garden beds, and I was like, that looks like lovage, but I didn't plant lovage there. So I went back into my sheets that I wrote down what I planted. I was like, it's parsnips. That's the parsnips. So they look very similar when they're that size. And so I was like, I'll go back to my notes and I'll look at which bed that was. And yes, it's parsnip. So super exciting. Now to more information. By the way, if you've got any questions, you can always send an email. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com, and I do answer your questions. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So this is a live video on Saturday, December 28th. I usually go live on Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time. And I will be back to regular schedule next Thursday in the new year. So super excited for that. And one of the first questions in my planning before I plant was what worked well this year. The second is what didn't work well this year. And so I made some notes on those. Now, what do I want to grow more of versus what do I want to grow less of? And the answer to the less of is not necessarily what I don't want to grow, is so much that I don't have to plant. Because I planted a lot of perennials and they're already established, that means I don't have to plant them again this year. So things like lemon balm, spearmint, catnip, my asparagus plants are thriving. This is just off the top of my head. It's not on my notes for today. My Egyptian walking onions. So all of those perennials are thriving in my garden. Oregano, I don't have to plant those this year. So it's not necessarily what do I want to grow less of. It's that one less thing that I don't have to plant this year. Hey, Melinda. Yeah, Natasha, it is really important to write down notes. Especially if you're looking at seed saving, or if you're looking at what did well and what didn't grow well, you want to know what you planted. So writing down what you plant is super important. And so what do I want to grow? Everything. I already have 3 pages of notes of what specific varieties I want to grow so that I can figure out when those need to be planted. So my radish, for example, for my 2025 garden challenges, if it doesn't freeze here or we don't get a lot of cold weather here for a while, I might be planting those early. By the way, if you missed my other live chat video, you can I've got a discount code that's going to save 5% off store-wide right now through the end of 2025, and it's a super easy discount code. The discount code is 2025, and you use that in the box at checkout marked discount code, or what is it? Discount code or gift certificate. You enter 2025 in there and you hit enter, and it should take 5% off your order. Even on sale stuff. So if you're buying coconut core bricks that are on sale, if you're buying seeds that are on sale, you can use that discount code to save 5% for the entire year of 2025. You have to use it before you check out, because I can't take it off your order after you've already processed it. So I told you I got a list three sheets long of what I want to plant. We talked about what I'm not going to plant because I already have them growing as perennials. My garden journal, super important. We talked about that one. Just off the top of my head, I am creating 2 new gardens for 2025. The container garden is actually completing a project in 2025 that I started in 2024. So I've got a large area in the fenced-in garden that has containers, and I've already started growing some perennials in there, but I want to expand that garden, and I want to add more grow bags and more containers in that area. I want to share with you how easy it is to grow in containers or in a small space. Yes, I've got a massive space. We have a large-ish property here. I don't have this 100-acre property, but I have more than a backyard. So I want to be able to share with you, and if you've got a small space, all of the things that you can plant in a small space, because you don't need a massive multi-acre property to grow food to feed you. And then the other one is going to be a medicinal garden that I mentioned earlier. And a lot of people had also chimed in that you guys are going to be planting medicinal gardens as well. One space is I've got 3 metal tubs. They're not tubs. It's actually, I think, like a burn pit, but Wicker Bill Homestead, yes, it's raining. It is. That's why I'm inside today. We've got thunder, lightning, heavy duty rain outside, so I'm trying to stay closer to the camera so you can actually hear me. So I've got 3 round garden beds, and those are going to be medicinal. They currently have a strawberry or 2 in there, and then I'll be adding another one. I'm going to be repurposing a massive stack of bricks. So when we moved onto this property, they were these kind of ugly broken bricks around a couple of the larger trees, and they had flowers growing in them, or they were overgrown. And from what I was learning, you don't really want to plant a lot of these plants around your trees because they can crowd out your trees. So I had all those bricks removed. We did put some newer, cleaner looking bricks around them, larger ones, and gave the tree more space. But I didn't want to throw these bricks away because they're definitely still useful. So I'll be repurposing those and making a specific cutesy, pretty herbal garden bed so that you can see that you can kind of add a little art to your garden as well. And last question I asked was, am I going to be giving gifts from my garden? My mom's not watching this, so it's perfect timing. Yes, I want to be able to give gifts from my garden. I want to be able to grow enough herbs in my gardens to be able to dehydrate those herbs and give them away as Christmas gifts. Specifically, I am learning a lot about the potential toxins in bagged teas, like the microplastics and the forever chemicals that are in some of the varieties that you buy off the shelf. So Southern Spirit says, I'm working on a healing garden. Awesome. So am I. Absolutely. So I currently grow teas or herbs for tea, but I want to be able to grow enough so that I can dehydrate them and offer them as a loose tea for family for Christmas. So I've got 360 days or so to plan for that. Not really, because I've got to plan ahead. I know my mom will watch the replay and comment, but that's okay. She likes getting gifts from my garden as well. I sent her more seeds for Christmas as well, so she was excited. So there are so many different factors in planning and planting your garden. I hope I've given you some tips and some tools. I did have, like I mentioned earlier, I did have someone say that it was a little rough. So for 2024, and they didn't do anything different. So super important to kind of look at that and go, okay, well, even though I didn't do anything different, everything's different. Maybe you had a warmer than normal season. Maybe you had a cooler than normal season. Maybe you do need to get your soil tested. Even if you're using the same soil amendments, maybe you're growing different things that require different nutrients. You've got heavy feeders and you've got varieties that don't require as much. I had a question here. Do you have a video of the herbs you grow for your teas? I don't specifically. I do have a couple of videos on the different herbs that I grow, but I don't have a specific video on the different herbs I grow specifically for tea. But I can, off the top of my head, tell you, my brain. The perennials are important. Sage, you can use as a tea, but you don't want to. Now, let me preface this by saying, with any herb, you want to consult your physician or consult any kind of medical textbook if you are taking medications or if you have a health condition that maybe an herb would not be beneficial to you. So I need to add that disclaimer. So I am not currently taking any medication that I should be aware of herbs that may be contraindicated for those. And I don't have any health conditions that would cause me to say, okay, well, I can't take that herb. So super important, because herbs are amazing. They have got great healing properties, but just like anything, you can have issues with them. Maybe you're allergic to something. For example, my husband shouldn't take chamomile because he has an allergy to that type of flower. Okay, so chamomile tea is great to sleep, but he shouldn't be taking it because it affects his the allergy that he has to that particular flower. Okay, so super important. Now, things that I'm growing, particularly in my garden, Altered Ego 420. I want to at least answer your question instead of just adding the disclaimer. Lemon balm is my absolute favorite tea. Altered Ego says I have immune health, HEP, and I can't use several of the herbs that I grow. Okay, so there you go. Now you understand why I'm like, got to be aware of what you shouldn't use for what you might have an issue with. So lemon balm, make a stinging nettle spearmint tea that helps me tremendously. When I moved to Texas 3 years ago, I had never had any issues with allergies, but I started waking up with these raging headaches during different times of the year, and I couldn't figure out what was making it worse. I do have permanent damage in my neck from a car accident, so I thought, well, maybe it's just a flare up of my neck. That wasn't the case. I was experiencing allergies in Texas. I think they call it cedar fever. So I use stinging nettle and spearmint tea together. I use a little brewer in a big glass jar, and I brew up a big jar of it for myself for the week. It lasts about 4 days. I add raw local honey to it after it cools down a little bit, and it's perfect for my allergies. You can make tea with oregano. I have catnip that I make tea with. There are so many different things that you can make tea with. Thai roselle, which is a hibiscus tea, one of my all-time favorite summer drinks. Basil lemonade. That is probably hands down my favorite herbal tea is basil lemonade. So you can have the Genovese basil, which has a more sweeter flavor to it. You can use Thai holy basil, which has some more healing properties to it as well. And it has a little more cinnamon clovey flavor to it. But the prettiest of all is the, let's see, dark purple opal basil. It makes a purple or a pink tea. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, so there's a couple of other things. There is valerian, there's echinacea, there's chamomile. I did mention chamomile. I do grow that for myself. There is mugwort. There is yarrow. We've got an herbal tea seed combo pack available at Mary's Heirloom Seeds. It even includes peppermint. So there's so many different ways that you can use herbs, and that seems to be the topic of the year because I've added a lot more herbal herb seeds for 2025. If you didn't already know, I added oxeye daisy. I didn't know about that one. We grow it, but I haven't used it, so good to know. I've added 3 varieties of blueberry. I'm adding 2 varieties of elderberry. I'm adding goji berry this year. So we're going to be creating more of a food forest on top of our annuals and our perennials. So definitely stay tuned. I had a couple of special requests for like black mulberry. So I'll be growing black mulberry as well. I believe the leaves of black mulberry can also be used in a tea. So 2025, I'm going to ditch the bag and all the toxins that may come with it, and I'm going to be growing a lot more of my own herbal teas. We grow all what I call beyond organic or beyond organic standards, so I don't even use some of the organic practices because we go kind of above and beyond. Butterfly pea, very good. There are so many different teas that you can make from your garden, so stay tuned for more. I will share a lot more information with you in 2025. My next live chat will be Thursday at 5 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube. If you haven't already, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Check out the links down below in the description section of this video. You've got my comprehensive planting guide, which will help you kind of navigate what you want to be planting this year. I also have a link to my garden journal. If you buy the garden journal, you're going to get a couple extra seeds with it. And then the new arrivals for 2025, I announced those back in October, but I've added a couple more and I've updated the 2025 new arrivals. So definitely check those out if you haven't. Even if you checked it out back in October when I sent out the email, there are more options. I also added bulk seeds for 2025 that I didn't have already. A lot of special requests this year that I am really trying to make happen for everyone. So that's it. To recap, check out all the information below. Use seed combo pack or use seed discount code 2025 at checkout to save 5% this year. Definitely check out the freebies. If you place an order today, the 28th through the end of January, you will find some extra seeds in your order. When are your latest seeds like comfrey? Okay, so most likely I will be updating any of the out of stock varieties and the new stuff tomorrow. I had crazy time getting ready for seed orders and then a lot of work in the seed shop today to get started for this crazy rain. I had to get orders done before we might lose power. So if I don't lose power, I'll get it done tonight. If I lose power today, I'll do it tomorrow and you'll see the information as well. So all the new stuff is going to be added to our 2025 new arrivals announcement. Ta-da! Send me an email if you've got any questions. My email is mary@marysheirloomseeds.com. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks everybody for joining me and happy planting.